Good morning, welcome to the CBS AM debrief. I'm David Kern. It's Thursday the 14th of October, just coming up on 9 AM, and overnight market action. The US saw its highest close, or Dow rather, since May of this year, of course. I think it was May 3. That was helped along by good numbers from Intel and JP Morgan Chase, and the S&P 500 was pushed up by the materials and energy sectors. Got a good strong move there on crude, and no doubt that that's helping things. So let's take a look at the actual numbers. So yes, 0.69% for the Dow, 75 points, getting pretty close to, extremely close to the 12,000 level. S&P 500 up 8.3 or 0.71, and the Nasdaq up strongest of all, 0.96. Europe had a bit of a bottled up upside, I think, from given that quantitative easing announcement didn't come out until after they were closed yesterday, if I recall correctly, and so they've all jumped out of the gates here. The FTSE up 1.15%, the CAC up 2.12%, and the DAX up 2.06%. Take a look at where our market's pointing. We have an anticipated open around 30 points higher from the direction of the futures here, and the Hang Seng up 455, which is a pretty big move there. Nikkei up 80. Take a look now at some of the commodities. As I mentioned, crude 83.24, up $1 and nearly 60 cents there, or nearly 2%. Coffee 186.15, corn 569.25, cotton 110.87, oats 380, rough rice $13.40. Soy $11.87, sugar 27.5 cents, and wheat 702 3/4, and wool 952. Copper 382 1/4, and gold absolutely stellar move here. Now trading at $1,373. That was up $26.30, nearly a 2% move. And then silver stronger again, up nearly 4% or 3 3/4, which translates to about 86 cents, trading over $24. So it's often been said that silver has outperformed gold in the move up. Certainly did last night, up twice as much in percentage terms. Have a look at our currency pairs now, and the the US dollar was buying Euro was buying 1.3962 US dollars, the pound 1.5897 US dollars, and the US dollar is buying 81.7940 yen, and the Aussie is buying 0.9902. So book those flights to Hawaii while you can. The US dollar was buying 1.0036 Canadian dollars, and the US dollar is buying 0.9584 Swiss francs. Let's take a look now at our economic calendar for today, Thursday the 14th of October. We've already had some housing data out of New Zealand. There's actually a figure that was down slightly on the previous, a month up a year-on-year September. So they're still not quite out of the hole there with housing data, it would seem. Retail sales forecast to be up 0.3%, and the previous was negative 0.4%. That's due out in actually right about now. Then we've got business performance, and then earlier on this evening, there's not much else out today until early this evening with Canadian merchandise trade numbers. Then we move into the US around 11:30 tonight. Producer price index month on month, and year on year, and then US trade balance. The forecast there is for a negative $44 billion figure. previous was 42.8. And then moving in tomorrow, we've got China property prices, which should be an interesting one to watch given the talk about the property bubble there. And then finally, more of academic interest perhaps, given the sheer number of zeros behind these figures here. The forecast reserves for Chinese reserves rather 2.502 trillion, up from 2.45 trillion previously. That rounds out the economic calendar. Let's move now and have a look at a couple of things in the Falcon Trader. First of all, we have the Aussie dollar grinding seemingly relentlessly higher here, and don't think it will be too much longer before we are talking about parity, and certainly it always strikes me that when the media gets a hold of something and screams about it from the rooftops, it's likely to do exactly the opposite, but I guess we'll know in the fullness of time. Take a quick look at the local index. We're not going to be challenging that 4,700 figure today, I don't think, but that's another 80 points away. But certainly if we add another 30 points on or so, we'll be back up to that midpoint. And then perhaps going into Friday, we could see some likelihood of challenging that level again, but hard to imagine it's sustained throughout the day given that we'll be going into the weekend. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. A couple of stocks I wanted to look at. One was Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and given the prosperity happening in our region, or the ability for people to spend on luxury items, this one certainly had a pretty good run up from 90 or so, 90 euros, now around 111. Hasn't broken out of that trend. A little bit difficult to know where you put your stop, perhaps in there or something like that, but quite like that space to be in. Just following up on one that I talked about, I think, a couple of weeks ago, which was a short from Macquarie. That looks like it's worked out quite well here, because I think when I spoke about it, it was up around the 38 or slightly higher level, and it's now come off here to 34.35. Probably expect to see a little bit of support here off this level that it bounced off early in September. Another one to consider is Mincor. We've seen most of the nickel stocks do quite well of late, but for some reason we're getting a bit of reluctance for Mincor to follow suit with its contemporaries. And if I can just quickly draw up a couple of lines here, we've obviously got an overhead horizontal level of resistance, and taking too long here, we have now got a makings of a pennant formation here, so we would expect, well, I would expect that once we run out of space here, it's either a case of breaking that inner upward trend line to the downside, or hoping that it'll break to the upside. Obviously seeing nickel prices move up, as I mentioned, and not seeing too much out of Mincor, so perhaps that's one to watch. Better get moving on here. Origin Energy, I know I mentioned this a week or so ago as well, hasn't done a great deal, but when I talked about that, it was at $16, so at least it's moving in the right direction, albeit slowly. Let's finally take a look at how gold's looking here. Well, it'd be interesting to look at a Fibonacci here to my mind. And if we took that A, B, C, D wave, we're actually right up near the 1.618 extension here, 1,378.50. Now, Fibonacci's can tend to be a little bit self-fulfilling in that where do you start your A leg of the wave, and where do you finish? Well, that's pretty clear where it's finished, but we could choose a number of these to start it. But just picking that one by happenstance sees a potential level up here. This is starting to look like a pretty unsustainable trend, but it's starting to look a bit like the Nasdaq did in the late 90s. But it does just keep on pushing up. But, it's going to be interesting to see how much more the longer the legs are here. Really don't know what you do there other than to continue to trade in the trend. I think that about wraps up this morning's AMD brief. Gone a little bit long here, so I hope thanks for your patience, and happy trading, and bye for now.